Good morning. This is Pam Batchelor from North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, the Digital Teaching and Learning team. I am excited to welcome you to NC Learns Together. We are going to take the first couple of minutes here to go over some logistics. First, you will need a copy of today's slide deck, which you can find in 3 places. You can find it in the chat link. There is a link to the bit.ly for today's slide deck. If you go to the handouts section of Gotowebinar, you can find a PDF copy of today's slide deck, or you can type in the bit.ly that you see on your screen. You will not be able to click on my screen. This is just a projection of my own screen. You will have to type in the bit.ly that's in the green box into your URL browser of your internet browser. So we're going to give everyone just a minute to get connected. We are using GoToWebinar for this webinar, and with that, we do have audio options. When you first join the webinar, you should be prompted to either select computer or phone audio. If you are having audio issues, please look on slide 2 of today's presentation, and you will see some tips and tricks for GoToWebinar. We understand there's a lot of webinar platforms out there, and you might have to get used to all of them in today's remote learning. So we want to give everyone just a minute to make sure their audio is connected. So on GoToWebinar, there is a questions panel. If you have questions, you can type them in there throughout the webinar. We also have a Padlet that I will share in a couple of slides that will serve as a back channel during this webinar. So we're excited to get started and share some googly goodness. If you are having audio issues, again, please use the audio troubleshooting guide on slide 2, or watch the 1-minute video that's also on slide 2 that'll explain to you how to connect your audio. In GoToWebinar, you have the choice of phone audio or computer audio. If you cannot hear anything, then you need to make sure that you have one of those 2 sound options selected. All right, we are going to do a quick poll to see if everyone is connected with our audio and video since they've given a second. So first, we're going to ask a question. GoToWebinar sometimes makes it so if people cannot respond to a poll question. If that is you, that is fine. You don't have to respond to the polls. Just letting you know, sometimes it is quirky depending on if you're joining via a phone. But we are asking if everyone can hear, and we're going to give about 10 more seconds for folks to respond. All right, it does look like most people are able to hear us. The next one is if they could see our slides that we were showing just a minute ago. So if you can see the presenter slides, if you could let me know. And we'll give about 10 more seconds to see if everyone can hear and, see my screen. All right, so it does look like most people can see the screen, so that's wonderful. So going back to our slides, I'm just going to take a second to introduce myself. I am from Digital Teaching and Learning from the Department of Public Instruction on the home-based team. I manage the instructional products such as SchoolNet, Canvas, GoOpenNC, and Imagine Math. With me today, I have my colleague Tessa Hine. Tessa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, I'm Tessa Hine. I'm with the home-based training team.
And I'm excited to have Tessa with us to help with questions. I just want to note we do have many people on this webinar, and it's possible we may not get to all of the questions during the webinar, but we will do our best. So just to let you know, just give us grace. We're going to give you grace as we're all adapting to remote learning and doing professional development online versus face-to-face. So we are excited to be with you and talk to you a little bit about Google. I am a Google certified trainer for education. I've been a Google trainer for about 3 years now. It's a lot of fun. You get kind of some advance notice about things coming out with Google. So you have my contact information on this slide. Please feel free to reach out to me. I also put my Twitter handle up there. Please reach out to me on Twitter. I will happen to thank you. Someone in the chat was saying that they've attended many meetings with me, and they're always spot on. So thank you. I appreciate it. If you couldn't respond to the polls earlier, don't worry. We're not going to use them anymore. GoToWebinar sometimes is funny with polls. If you have a lot of tabs open or screens maximized, sometimes it doesn't let you click on them. So don't worry about the polls earlier if you couldn't click on them. All right. So we are going to get started today, and we're going to be talking about Google Docs and Google Slides. But first, just a quick note about CEUs. So I will not be sending CEUs out for this session. This is different than if you've attended some of my sessions before, my monthly webinars that I do. Because this is part of NC Learns Together. There is an evaluation form on the last slide that you will be able to fill out. And based on that evaluation form, Adam and Stacy will be sending out CEU certificates sometime next week. So please just note that Adam and Stacy will be the ones giving you your CEU certificates, not me. So if you email me later on, I'm just going to have to email Adam and Stacy because I am not in charge of the CEU certificates for this webinar. Once you get your certificate, you'll still have to follow your local process to get your CEUs approved and awarded to your transcript. All right, so I do want to show our parking lot for today. So for all my sessions, I've created one parking lot where we're going to go to, it's a Padlet. So if you want to click on the link click here for your parking lot, it's on slide 5. It will take you to Padlet. And Padlet is pretty user-friendly. I see some folks have already started adding things. So we have a questions column. So if you have questions and if you do want an email response, I have to have your email address. So if you want an email response, you can do that. We have a spot for you to connect with each other on Twitter. So please put that up, put your usernames up there if you would like to connect with other folks. And then I will ask you to share a next step or a takeaway about something fabulous that you've learned, hopefully in the next 40 minutes together. And then if you have any suggestions from me on what could be improved on the webinar. I do understand it might have been a little confusing with Sched and putting your making your schedule on Sched versus actually registering for this webinar. Unfortunately, that's just a logistics issue that I couldn't really resolve. So that one was out of my hands, but I do apologize if that was confusing to anyone. All right, so going back to the slideshow. We are going to have and talk about how do we build interactivity into our daily content so it just flows. And certainly this is relevant now with remote learning, but it's also going to be relevant, just as relevant when we get back into the classroom to making sure that, as we're, thinking about work that we're posting and asking our students to do, how can we really take it to that next level to engage students to be more of the producers than just consumers of learning and digital media especially. So I'm going to share with you some of my favorite things, all that are free. because I don't have any money. I'm a teacher, a lifelong educator, so free is the only way I go. So I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite things. We're also going to be looking at some ways that hopefully will help give you more time back, because I know, especially during this time of emergency or remote learning, you can raise your hand in the attendee panel if you feel like me that you've been working 24 hours a day. So if you want to give some appreciation there, if you want to raise your hand in the attendee panel, I feel you. We can have a moment of yeah, I see those hands going up. I see it. We can have a moment together of virtual bonding over that. So hopefully some of these tips and tricks will help you with that. All right, so we're going to go, and first I've created this document, and it's going to have all of the links and information that we're going to talk about today. So it's very important that everyone who's on the webinar take the next couple minutes to follow these steps. So I am on slide 7. There is a link to today's interactive document. When you click on that link, it's going to ask you to make a copy of the document. That's going to be your personal copy of the document. And once it's open, I want you to make sure you take a minute to change the name of the document and star it. So this is going to be your document. You'll have all the links we're going to talk about, and as well as it's going to have a section for your notes. So maybe be thinking as we talk, how can I apply this? What can I use? And there's many things on the document. So if you feel like maybe some of these things don't apply to you, don't worry about it. Skip it, right? Because I only want you, I know that we might have a wide range. I didn't even ask because I'm sure we do, from pre-K all the way to high school AP teachers. We probably have a mix between math, science, social studies, tech facilitators, you name it. So I wanted to try to design something that there was something for everyone, but there may not be everything for everyone, as if that makes sense. So I'm going to model these steps right now so that way we can go. Again, I'm on slide 7 of the presentation. So again, just a quick note, if you're watching my screen, you can't click on my screen. You have to have the presentation open, whether you go to the handout section and you download the PDF, or you have it open in another browser. So I'm going to click on the link from slide 7. It's going to ask me to make a copy, which I'm going to do. And it's going to bring up my template document. And I'm going to give it just a minute to load because I know I'm asking the internet to do a lot of things right now. Okay, so we're on slide 7 of the slide deck, and we've clicked on the link that says click this link, and we've made a copy of the document. And then the next thing I need to do is I need to change the name of it. So instead of it just saying copy, I'm just going to put my name. So that way I know it's Pam's copy. And to change the name, you just simply click on it and change the name. Okay. The next thing I asked you to do was use the little star feature, which is right next to the name on the top left side. The star feature I find quite useful because it helps me. There's a section of your Google Drive just for starred items. And so I click on the star, so that way I know that it's easy for me to refer back to. So I'm going to pause right here, and I'm going to ask in the attendee panel of Gotowebinar, first I'm going to lower everyone's hands from earlier. If you could raise your hand when you have a copy of the document and you've changed the name of it. So if you could raise your hand if you've gone ahead and made a copy of the document and changed the name of it. And I'm going to give just a few seconds of wait time here. And I see in the chat that a couple people said didn't let them make a copy of it. Try again, because sometimes Google, we have about 400 people right now on this webinar. If we all click on the same link at the same time, sometimes the internet doesn't happen. So and again, how you get to this document is you go to slide 7 of my presentation and you click on the link next to step 1. All right, so we're going to give about 10 more seconds here. Another little thoughtful pause. I see almost everyone's hand is raised in the attendee panel. To raise your hand, you should have a little hand icon in the attendee panel. All right. So it looks like we have almost everyone that has raised their hand, the vast majority. So thank you for that. I'm going to lower everyone's hands now, and I'm going to explain to you this document. So first of all, you'll notice that there's different colors. Hopefully that'll help keep us clear as we go through the next 30 minutes or so and talk about this document. At the top, you have my information once again, in case you need to contact me later on for anything. The next is the steps are the instructions, right? So this document is yours, only you can see it. You do have a link to that Padlet again, so you can go over here and click on the Padlet if you want to at any point in time ask a question. And then we're going to get started with the green section. So the green section is going to be all about Google Docs, which is the first part we're going to talk about. And we are going to go through some of my favorite add-ons. So an add-on to a Google Doc is a third-party kind of integration that adds more functionality to a document. So I have a few add-ons, and then I have a Vocaroo, which is actually just a web tool, and then the Explore tool that we're going to talk about. So the first thing is this Easybib creator, bibliography creator. So if you actually click on the link, it's going to take you to the G Suite Marketplace, which is where we find all of our add-ons for G Suite. So just to let you know, if you haven't been to the G Suite Marketplace, there's a lot of cool things you can add on here. Just a note that some districts have restrictions on what add-ons you can install. So if you clicked on this link, and you would see the install button would be kind of grayed out, and it would say something like this add-on is not in your whitelist. Then you would need to contact your technology services folks and ask them, could they possibly add this add-on to your whitelist if it's something you want. Some districts do manage that, and some have, for teachers at least, they have it unmanaged, so that way you can add the add-ons that you want. So all of these have been reviewed by Google to appear in the G Suite Marketplace. So it's not like it's a non-reviewed marketplace. Google does review all of these to make sure they work and to make sure that they are secure. So Easybib is a great tool to add citations and that annotated bibliography to it. So to add an add-on, you just would click on the install button where mine says uninstall, because I already have it. And then if you go back to your document to use an add-on, you actually go to the add-ons menu up at the top of your Google Doc, and you'll have a list of them. And so for Easybib, you would just click on Manage Bibliography. And then it comes up with your citation. What are you wanting to cite? and what style. So there's a lot of different citation styles that Easybib supports. So this is great for anyone doing research, or maybe you're like me and getting ready to start, or in grad school. I'm getting ready to start my doctoral program. So Easybib is going to help me as I go through the research process and writing process for my classes. So it's pretty simple. We go through and we pick our format, and we can look and do a website. So let's see if I wanted to cite the Google Marketplace. I could click on search and select, and I could say add bibliography to doc. And then down at the bottom of my document, I now have this ongoing references page. All right, so we're going to do a quick check-in because I just with 400 folks, I want to make sure we're doing all right. So if you're doing okay and you're following along okay, if you could raise your hand in the attendee panel again, we're just going to do a quick check-in, make sure most of us are there. So once we have this document open, we're going to pretty much be working from the document for the rest of the webinar. So you should be in a good spot as long as you have your copy of the template open. All right, I'm seeing most of the hands go up. So I'm going to take that as a good pulse check, and we're going to move on to the next. So the next thing is a good time saver. And who doesn't need a time saver? And that is going to be through Doc to Form. So this is another free add-on that allows you to take parts of a Google Doc and create a Google form. So if you, there's a fabulous session by my friend Emily Hargrove yesterday and later on today about Google Forms. And so if you don't know a lot about Google Forms, I encourage you to visit Emily and Megan's session because, and even if you can't squeeze it in your schedule today, go out and find the recording. Everything's going to be recorded and posted next week because Google Forms allows you to make quizzes and so many other great things that you can use. So I love Doc2Form because a lot of times I might have a Google document that I've already kind of created, or maybe even something prior, like I might have an old, I used to teach world history, so I might have an old, looking at kingdoms of Africa, I might have a document that I would like to convert into a new quiz that Google quizzes can be self-graded. So this Doc2Form, again, you can click on the link and it takes you to the Google Marketplace and you can install that. And so I'm going to go to my add-ons and I already have it up there. And I'm going to say create form from document. And it's pretty simple. There is an instructions pad, but basically I'm going to take questions. I'm just going to highlight some text, and it actually, if I just select it, it comes it over and brings for it. For my form options, I can ask for a name, questions, and add question. And then I can come down here and I'm just going to pretend this is another question, and you can change the type. So maybe instead of I want to give a paragraph for this question, we'll do a multiple choice, and then we add our options separated by semicolons. So yes, no, There is a limit on Doctiform of 10 questions for the free version. So just to let you know that, but I really like this for my little formative quick questions to ask students maybe after a reading or some type of guided practice. It's always good to have those formative assessments. So I'm just going to stop there because I've added these 2 questions, and I'm going to click on Create Form. All right, yay, your form has been created. So I'm going to click on View Form, and it should jump me right over. And here's my form that's been created based on the information in my Google Doc. So this is going to be very helpful. I've shown a lot of reading teachers this add-on, and they've been very happy because it makes it real easy to create some questions after a reading assignment, right? So now I have the form already started for me, and then if I wanted to, I could go into the settings and turn this into a quiz. And if you don't know what I'm talking about here, again, find Emily and Megan Parrish's session and find the recording of it if you can't attend it live, and they're going to walk you through making these quizzes right here from Google Forms. All right, I'm going to lower all the hands, and we're going to do another little progress check. So if you could raise your hand again, just to let me know that everything is good. So I saw a couple of questions. I'm looking at the questions panel, and is this easier than creating a Google form from scratch? I think so, because at least you have a lot of your content. And so it's 10 questions, but so there's no, once you create the form, once you use Doctiform to create the form, you can still go back in and add more questions. So I always use the free version. I put the 10 questions, and if I want more questions, I can always go into my Google form and continue adding more questions. It's just 10 that it creates for free off the document. All right, so Lisa's asking about, is it better to use Doctiform and not just use Canvas to make a quiz? It's totally up to you. So you can even take Google Form and embed it in your Canvas course. You know, the quiz tool in Canvas is nice. It's fully functional. I would say pick one and stick with it. So whichever one you're most comfortable with, I would use that. I will say, however, that the Doctiform is nice if you already have a lot of documents or old quizzes that you would like to reuse, because it's going to save you that automation step of having to like copy and paste into a Canvas quiz. But it's totally up to you. There's so many good quiz tools. It's really just a matter of preference. If you already have a favorite, stick with that one. But if not, go ahead. All right. So I'm going to lower everyone's hands. Thank you. I see most people are good. And we're going to talk about another one of my favorite tools. And this is the Sas Writing Revisor. So the Sas Writing Revisor is something that I've found that students from first, second grade, all the way through, even me as a graduate student, use the Sas Writing Revisor. So it is a free add-on that you can have, and it analyzes the work in your Google Doc and gives you all types of suggestions. So I'm going to, again, just click on that link, and it's going to open up in the marketplace, and you can uninstall. So I did get a couple of questions about, is it safe to add these add-ons? So when you click on install, it's going to ask for like permission to view your Google Drive and documents. So how it works is it usually only, not every add-on, because I haven't looked at all of them in the marketplace, but the ones that I use, they only are getting access to the files when I click on add-ons and run. So it's not like it's looking at every single thing in my Google Drive. It's really only being used for the ones when I go into the add-ons and I go into that Sas Writing Advisor and I say open. That's when it's, now you see how it's working. That's when it's looking at this document. And if I didn't give it permission when I was installing, then it wouldn't be able to access this document that I want it to look at. So I always encourage you to look at the add-ons if you're looking at some different ones than the ones I have on this list today, and look and see what access they're requesting. It's also a good idea to check with your technology folks at your district too, because a lot of times they'll have some good insight about whether this would be a good add-on or not, because there definitely is people out there that are trying to take advantage. But again, everything I'm showing you today is from the G Suite Marketplace, which means that Google has reviewed their security standards and what the add-on does, so that way there's no malicious code involved in it. So I do feel a little bit safer knowing that these are all from the G Suite Marketplace, so Google has reviewed them, but I would still encourage you to be kind of an informed consumer and definitely look before you install, just to make sure that it's not asking for anything crazy. So back to the Sas Writing Revisor, I've just gone under add-ons, the Sas Writing Revisor, and I've opened it. Now, the first time you open it, it is going to ask you to create an account. You can create an account for free with just your Google account, and that's what I did. There's a little button that says Join Google, and it sees that you have an EDU account, and it gives you free access. So again, the first time you launch it, it will ask you for that, and the students can join as well. So students can create their own Sas Writing Advisor accounts. So if you look, I am not an English teacher, just FYI, but there's all of these categories looking at sentence economy, wordiness. I've never been guilty of a wordy sentence, trust me. So, it's going to sit here and analyze. It did not find any words that were unnecessary this time. But then the other thing is not only does it tell me that it didn't find any words that were unnecessary, it says about wordiness. And if I click on it, it actually kind of props up with a description of what this is and what these expressions are. So if you're not an English teacher and you're like, what does this mean? I encourage you to click on it and actually click on the about, so that way it gives you examples. But think about how great this is for students, right? And thinking about, if they're writing an essay or if they just in general writing, they can improve so many things. So let's see if I can actually find one that might have an issue. Word reoccurrence. All right. So Google is a word reoccurrence. And you'll notice in my document, I don't know if you saw that in the teal now, it has highlighted for me words that reoccur frequently in my writing here. All right. So I do encourage you, I would think that the Sas Writing Advisor, we had it in my district. I added it to all of my student Chromebooks. I would encourage you to go through your technology services people and your technology team to ask if they can be added to students, because it's such a powerful thing. All right, so we're moving along. I want to keep us going. So we're going to look at Vocaroo next, and Vocaroo is probably one of my favorite tools of all time. It's very simple. When you click on it, even kindergartners can use Vocaroo because it's simply a web-based recording tool, but it's free and it's very easy to use. And I love giving feedback to students, especially right now in this time of remote learning, as a voice. So I'm just going to click. Hi, this is my sample recording, and you can play. All right. And, if I didn't like that, I can click on the red button to redo it, but for me, it's fine. And then when you click on save and share, it gives you a link, right? So I can go ahead and copy this link. You can also download it as a file. You can embed it. You can put a QR code to it. So this is great for like those book talks. If you've ever wanted your students to read a book or describe an event in history, and then they can print out a little QR code of themselves talking about or explaining that book or that event. Vocar is a great tool for those. So I'm going to copy this and I can go right back into my document. And what I love to do with student work is simply add a comment with the link to that recording. So now my students can click on it. Right, and they get to hear my feedback on their work. The thing I also love about Vocaroo is when life goes back to somewhat normal, it goes up to 15 minutes for length for the recordings. Back when, time was normal, I spent a lot of my evenings on the ball field for my children. And I would use Vocaroo Vocaroo is very easy to use on your phone. I would take my phone to the ball field and I would record verbal feedback and put it in comments on student work. So that would be something that I would just simply, sit down, make a recording, click on that save and share, and copy and paste that link and use it in Google Classroom or in Canvas, whatever your platform is. And you can even, just simply go into a Google Doc that if you are having a student share a Google Doc with you, like I just did, and put a comment in. Yep, so Vocaroo is not an add-on, so it's the one I'm showing in here that's not an add-on, so you will have to go in and it's a website. There's no way really to embed it into your document unless you just go in and add a link. So I could certainly, you can make a link instead of making a comment. If I just wanted to put a comment, type in feedback on a document and then make that a link to the Vocaroo recording, you can do that. Yep, there are ads on the slide here replay. There seems to be less ads on mobile devices like tablets and things. So, all right. So the last thing I'm going to show you with Google Docs is the Explore tool. So if we go under Tools and we go to Explore, this is a nice built-in feature of Google. So I'm going to go and look for a golden retriever. All right, so when I type in golden retriever on that Explore tool, and I can look and you can find an image. So notice when I hover over an image, there's a plus button. So now I can insert image. I grew up with a golden retriever. He looked just like that. But not only can I insert this image, but I can also go on, look at the web. And when there's web results, maybe from the AKC about golden retrievers, there's this little quote button, and it actually will cite that resource down here at the bottom of my document, golden retriever breed information. So Google will actually, this is the Explore tool is my favorite thing to show with students because a lot of times I want them to add images, I want them to go out and find research, but I don't want them navigating away from the screen. I've found that the more tabs students have open, the less effective they are at any of those things. So I like to go out and just again to demonstrate, I'm going to go under Tools and Explore, and you have a search bar. So I'm going to go in and maybe now I'll look for a pug. And you have web, you have images, and then you can also look in your drive if you happen to have any files that are related to that topic. So the Explore tool, someone was asking about images within it. So if you go down, there used to be a little link at the bottom where it would tell you, so safe search is automatically on for everyone that's within Google Apps for Education. And it did have an image filter where by usage rights, I'm not seeing it right this second, but maybe my internet's just having a burp, but there should be, all of those images should be in the, free to use category. So. All right. So I do want to make sure we have time to go into Google Sheets a little bit. We are running behind on time because there's just so much good stuff to share. But I want to show you Flippity. And so I'm going to make an executive decision that Flippity is going to be the one we're going to talk about. And then the other ones might be ones for you to explore. But Flippity, if everyone will go on that link on your notes document under Google Sheets, Flippity is awesome. If you haven't used Flippity, I could probably do a whole nother session just on Flippity. Flippity takes a spreadsheet of data and turns it into really awesome things. So all of these things you can use, flashcards, a quiz show, raise your hand if you ever spent hours turning, into a Google Sheets or a Google slide deck into a Jeopardy game. Oh, I remember when that was a thing, and I used to do that on my smartboard. You just spend hours doing that. All right, so there's quiz show, name picker, randomizer, scavenger hunt, Easter egg hunt, manipulatives that you can have students sort and shape. That's really great for our younger students. A timeline tool, badging. So if you want to do some gamification in your classroom, there's a Flippity chart for that. So with each one of these things, I want to point out there's 3 buttons. There's demo, instructions, and a template. So demo is going to take us to what your final product's going to look like. So, okay, random name picker, that's cool. But then we can also do, there's single name, there's a lineup. Yeah, so if you have your students line up for lunch or anything like that. If you want your students maybe in groups of 2 for thinking partners, and there's these little buttons where you can just quickly go around. Yep, can't have Catherine and Dustin together. And then there's teams. So if you want to divide your classroom up into teams, and then there's even a seating chart. So, if you need to print one off for being out, this name picker does that. So I'm going to demonstrate how you actually make one of these. And so I'm going to go back to the site, and I'm going to go to where it says template. And it's going to ask me again to make a copy, just like I made a copy of that document, for us today to learn from. And so this one's pretty simple. I'm just going to go in here. And it's taking a second to load. And basically, I'm just going to go through and add some names. And you can also add photos too. So if you have photos or avatars of your kiddos, when it sorts, it will show those. But the main important thing is that you have to make sure that after you add your changes to the template, that you have to go and publish to the web, right? So we have to make sure that we've published this document to the web, and this is included on the instructions tab. So on that instructions tab, you will see step by step how to do this with the instructions, right? And we go to get the link here. And now this is the link to my specific random name picker and lineup picker. You'll see the names that I chose. I added my own name there, Tiffany, Jill, and now this is ready for me to use, right? So I can go ahead and put in groups. All right. So I know I'm just going to quickly, I'm not going to click on those other ones, but I'm going to explore to you what they are, explain to you what they are. So Formule is an email tool where you can take a spreadsheet. Say for example, at the beginning of the year, if you have all your parents fill out their contact information and you have that in a spreadsheet, which is a pro tip, please do that. You can use email tool, the Formule, to quickly send an email to your entire class, to all of your parents. So maybe you're having a award ceremony and you need to notify everybody. You can use Formule on that spreadsheet and create a template, and it will send out the same email to all your parents. But you can also use Formule to differentiate. So maybe, your award ceremony, there's only like 6 kids that are getting an award. You can use that same template to then just email just those 6 parents. So, just a cool way to be able to send out emails. And then the last one is Timeline JS, which means JavaScript. And it's a way to take a spreadsheet and turn it into an interactive multimedia timeline. Very cool tool to use. So if you're someone who might like to use timelines as a class assignment, I encourage you to check out Timeline JS. All right, so we have just a couple of minutes left. I want to make sure that we go through and give you some time to do this feedback and certification form, and I'm going to make sure it works. So yes, it does. So the feedback and evaluation form is on slide 9. It is timed, so you need to do this now. It's only going to be open until 11 a.m. So the way that you go through and you'll get your certification for today's webinar is through going through that feedback and certification form. So I'm going to actually take this link and I'm going to paste it in the chat as well. So for the next 5 minutes, I encourage you to either fill out your CEU feedback and certification form, and then also revisit our Padlet and tell me what your next steps are, something that you're going to do. And I'm going to, I think I can move this post if I log in. There we go. So just to let you know, for add-ons, the things I've shown today, seeing this question, they are specific to each user. So you would need to install them in your Google Docs account, and then your students would need to install them in theirs in order for them to use them. So obviously the thing like Doctiform, they may not need, but if you wanted them to use that Sas Writing Advisor, then not only would you have to install it in your Google account, but then they would have to install it in theirs, and you might have to get your technology services team to help you with that if there's a process that your district follows. So if you were in my sessions yesterday I did SchoolNet sessions. There was a different process for the evaluations yesterday in my CEUs yesterday. So if you were in my sessions for yesterday only, I will be sending out those CEUs within 5 business days. For my sessions today are only being offered through the NC Learns Together. So you need to follow and take a second to go to that form. It is on the very last slide of the presentation, slide 9. I've also put it in the chat. So you either need to look at your chat bar or you need to look at slide 9 of the presentation. And I just reposted it in the chat, the link to the form. So there was a question about once you publish your Google spreadsheet to the web with Flippity, does everyone on the web have access to your class list? So anyone, so once you've given everyone on the web, if they have that specific link, and if you notice that link was really long and kind of crazy, so no one's going to be able to find it by searching, but if you happen to share that really long personalized link, then yes, they would be able to see your class list. All right. So I'm going to stick around for about 2 more minutes. You're welcome to go. I just want to make sure that there's any last minute questions. I do have monthly trainings on SchoolNet and Canvas and Go Open and See. So I will send out, if you add your list here about sharing out about monthly PD, I will be happy to add you to my email list about those. I only have one more round for May, and then we take a break in the summer, and I'll start back up in the fall with more monthly PD. So thank you very much. And Tessa, thank you for your help with the webinar.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you so much.